It is a post-presidency rite of passage, the presidential memoir. Former occupants of the Oval Office attempt to write some history their way, documenting their time in office while also making a few bucks. As of February 20th, according to publishing analytics firm NPD Bookscan, Barack Obama's A Promised Land had sold nearly 2.7 million copies in the U.S. Bill Clinton's My Life comes in at 1.3 million. Readers purchased nearly 2 million copies of George W. Bush's Decision Points, which leaves another recent resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue who's yet to publish a memoir of his own, Donald Trump. His eventful 4 years as president could make for an interesting read. 74 million voters cast ballots for him, many of whom could become buyers of his book. However, would publishers be willing to take on a Trump book? Could certain readers shun that publisher's future titles? Author Doug Wead recently wrote a memo to the former president, among others, projecting the reward for the president could be enormous and break all records in publishing. True or not, would that be enough for publishers? Doug Wead himself joins us now. So, Doug, you've written books for 3 U.S. presidents. Where does this stand right now? Would there normally be an offer on the table by now?
Oh, absolutely. And some of what I'm about to tell you, Joe, has never been made public before until this very moment. We've known and we've heard stories that the 5 major publishers, now 3 because of purchases, that these publishers will not publish Trump's books, and their authors and agents connected to it have already signed petitions, and the publishers have already privately amongst themselves said they wouldn't. But what's new and has never been made public is they have also contacted printers. A book by Donald Trump could conceivably sell up to 10 million copies. It would be by far the best-selling book by a president. He's just lightning. He's interesting to people. And whether it's television or books, whatever the ratings, they'd buy his book. So to interrupt that, they're circulating an agreement among printers that they will not print the book. And if they do, they will not get other orders from these big publishing companies. And there's another wrinkle to it. Apparently, a book with that number of quantities needs warehousing near the printers. Apparently, if the book sales are interrupted, it can very deeply affect the sale of the book. And so these warehouses are also being contacted and urged to agree not to handle the Trump book. This is truly remarkable, an attempt to shut down or censor a former president of the United States from telling his story.
We reached out to Amazon today to try to get a comment on this, and we did not hear back from them. Doug, you mentioned the numbers. Theoretically, there's a lot of money that could be at stake for the publisher that takes this on. Why wouldn't someone be willing to step up for the money involved?
Because of the politics involved. There was a time where CBS was on the block and people were buying stock in CBS, and billionaires came in that wanted to keep it as a liberal organization, bought up all those shares and blocked it. You may remember that was back in the 1970s. So many of these newspapers and many of these publishing companies are not nearly worth the amount of money that is paid to keep them operating. Amazon's another example. There's a real possibility of a version of catch and kill where Amazon would carry Trump's book and then suddenly announce, we're back ordered to try to block the rhythm of its sales. So if Trump's going to get his book out, he's going to have to go Mel Gibson and do this somehow on his own.
Well, isn't there a conservative publisher that would take this on? I know Josh Hawley, after he lost his book deal, was picked up by another.
Yes, but not on this scale. And they may actually be hampered because they're used to the traditional method of selling books, a sales force to go out and the bookstores. He may need a whole new operation to do this. That's why I mentioned Mel Gibson. This may have to be a Trump enterprise, but there is the demand. There's 10 million, 15 million people who would buy that book, and all over the world. They want to hear his version of what happened and what he believes.
Is it because publishers, do they have some control over the content, and maybe that's what scares them? Again, it just seems like we've seen books dozens of them about the Trump administration, what's happened inside, even written by former members of his administration.
Trump drives them crazy. My book, Inside Trump's White House, which was an authorized version of the presidency, couldn't be advertised on Twitter. It was published by one of the second largest publisher in the world published it. They weren't allowed to advertise it. It's politics. It's some people embrace the new socialism, the corporate socialism it's called, and that transcends earning money or making money. They can get their money another way. They don't want to lose power. It's about power.
We will see what happens. Doug Weed, interesting conversation. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you again about
Joe.
History next time, huh?
You got a great show, Joe.
Appreciate you.
My friends are calling me all the time and writing me and saying, you've disappeared from television. We can't find you. We don't see you anymore. This is the only way we've been figured out how to beat the censors. If you subscribe to this channel, hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell, you'll get notification when I'm on TV. Otherwise, you won't get my Instagrams, my messages on Facebook. It's censorship. So I want to hear from you. I want you to be able to hear from me.